Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. 412-575-2600 is the number to call. We have a lot to get into, but before I do anything, every time I tell people out there, if you get a hole-in-one on a golf course, let me know, and we'll celebrate it with you. Well, today at the Bob O'Connor Golf Course, Shenley, Max Wolfanger. How about this? He got a hole-in-one on a par 4, number 3 out there. I believe it's 240 yards, and Wolfanger put it right in, 240 hole-in-one. Congratulations, and I hope there weren't many people there because you know the rules. You got to buy the drinks afterwards, but congratulations to Max on that. 412-575-2600 is the number to call. I'll be joined here momentarily by Andrew Filipponi up at 93.7 The Fan as the Pirates try to break out of a 7-game losing streak. Losers of 9 of their last 10 and essentially have taken themselves completely out of any chance for a third wild card, only because they've invited teams to go ahead of them. Teams like the Reds, the Chicago Cubs, the San Francisco Giants now to join, the Cardinals, the Mets, the Braves, the Diamondbacks, and the Padres, the team they play again tonight. It just never seems to end here with the amount of teams that are ahead of them. So, Andrew, I want to ask you about this. You look at the 7 games, you look at 9 out of 10, you look at since the All-Star break, which is ironic that they went out and brought some people in, and it's gone the exact opposite way. They've completely faded out of this thing. I don't know about you, but I don't think there's any return from this. I don't know how they can get themselves back in. I know there's a lot of baseball left, but with this many teams in front of them, I think it's almost impossible to overcome them all because they're not all going to lose at the same time.
I get that, Bob, and look, I don't really have a lot of hope right now either, given where they are in the standings and how many teams they'd have to pass to get themselves back in it. But they still have more than a quarter of the season left, and they have starting pitching as their foundation. So if Jared Jones comes back, if Paul Skeens continues to pitch like the Rookie of the Year, Mitch Keller an all-star, Falter good, Luis Ortiz good, bullpen gets its head screwed on straight, which might be the most difficult part of this equation, but we're talking about still more than 40 games. And if I were to have asked you at 3/4 of the way through the NFL season, would you have picked the Steelers to make the playoffs after losing to Arizona and New England? You would have said no shot, given their situation there. So a lot can still happen. I'm not predicting it'll happen, but all I'm saying is that a quarter of the season is a ton of games, and with their starting pitching, I guess it's possible that they could go on a big run.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible. However, there are a lot of ifs you threw in that equation. If Luis Ortiz, if Jared Jones even comes back. Now Marco Gonzalez is out on the IL. He was supposed to start tonight. It was Woodford Reserve instead. And so you have him out. There are a lot more ifs than anything else on this whole entire pitching staff right now. And with the hitting being what it is, as erratic as it is, I just can't see it all coming together. But we'll see. This is a big series for them in San Diego. Last I checked, it was a scoreless game as Musgrove was back on the hill for San Diego, and he was out for like 3 months with an injury, so we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, Jerry Dulac reported today that Troy Fontano is going to be the starting right tackle. This is surprising only because he's out with an injury. Now he's going to miss the final 2 preseason games, I assume. Is that a leap of faith? Do you think it's a good move, knowing that he won't have a lot of time getting ready for that first game? And we saw him the other night. I think he's a really good run blocker, but he also got pretty much eaten up by Daniil Hunter on pass blocking.
Yeah, surprising. Guy's older, 23, a ton of starts at Washington, but it's also not where he played in college. He was a left tackle, okay? And because they had a left-handed quarterback, he wasn't protecting Penix's blind side, but still, that's where he got the lion's share of his work. So now you're going to say, we're going to throw you into, I would guess, his next game action would be week 1 against Atlanta, with very little preseason tune-ups to get himself ready. And to your point, it wasn't like in Houston, against Houston, he played a flawless game. That is very un-Steelers-like, especially when I would say, Bob, they know that Dan Moore is functional. He's not good, but they've gotten by with him, and they still have Broderick Jones. So that would be, for the Steelers, I think, throwing caution to the wind. I loved the idea of Fautanu starting from day one, but they're not taking the usual steps to go through the process to get the guy to be a starter if he's not going to play again in the preseason and just going to walk out there and play a brand new position week 1 in NFL games?
Yeah, I think it is. It's unusual because normally they just defer to the vets and then at some point they'll make a change. But it's a little bit surprising. We'll see how it goes. Next game is Saturday. Buffalo Bills come to town. All right, Pony, we're going to take a break here. It's 412-575-2600. Call us, air your opinions. We do it every single night of the week right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. All right, welcome back. This is our GMC Sierra tweet of the night, and it's an interesting one. It talks about the best hitters per inning. Every one of these innings, 1 through 9. Aaron Judge is the best first inning hitter in baseball. Anthony Santander of the Orioles in the second. Third inning, it's Christian Walker. How about Nick Gonzalez with a 1.339 OPS in fourth innings of play? You look down the list, Juan Soto's on the list, Shohei Ohtani, and Ketel Marte. Andrew, if you had to pick an inning, Marte at the 9th inning is interesting to me, and Ohtani at the 8th tells me that later in games those guys come up with big hits. Is that how you would deduce this?
Well, those are the two guys that I think are neck and neck for the MVP, especially if Arizona can run down L.A. and win the division, which they're still in it. I mean, it's very close. 3.5 games, and San Diego right there, too. I was listening on the way over here, Bob. You know, Jurickson Profar leads Major League Baseball, or leads the NL, in on-base percentage. He's better at not making it out than anybody in Major League Baseball. San Diego signed him for $1 million right before spring training started. He was an all-star starter. He can play left field, right field. Apparently there's a magnet in his body that when he plays in Pittsburgh, he gets hit by every pitch as well. But he's incredible. And to think $1 million when the Steelers went out, when the Pirates went out and gave Michael A. Taylor, what was it, $4.5 million on a one-year deal?
Perez,
Rowdy Tellez, who obviously bounced back. Yeah, but the point is there were some bargains to be found, but they didn't really find them this offseason for a team that was really looking for the one-year bargains all across the free agent marketplace.
$1 million, that's amazing. He won't get that next year, I'm sure, but he's put himself in a nice position with the San Diego Padres. Very good baseball team. Their bullpen, more than anything, really sticks out to me. And Suarez, their closer, has been terrific. And I thought the Pirates would have had a strength in the bullpen. It's not to be. So would you make it? I don't know what changes you go in the. I mean, they only have what they have. What would you do moving forward? Just stick with what you have, because I don't think there are any other answers out there in the bullpen.
Well, I'd like to see, how about we give some of the young guys promotions now? Okay, let's see Kyle Nicholas in more high-leverage situations, already pitching bigger innings, but maybe it's time for him to move up the totem pole a little bit more here and get maybe the 8th inning on some nights. David Bednar, possibly do what Arizona did with Paul Sewald. Let's see the guy move down in the pecking order and work his way back up. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to send the guy to Indianapolis. You don't have to make up an injury. How about we just gradually work him back and get his confidence right? Because right now, when the game's on the line, he has not played well. And just simply, if you take those 3 games he blew last week and turn them into wins, Bob, they're over 500 and a game and a half out of a playoff spot right now, thanks to Atlanta's free fall in this whole playoff picture. So they'd be right there. Instead, they're looking up at everybody in the NL Central, and there's a lot of issues. But if just the closer did his job, the all-star closer, they'd be in a much better spot right now. Yeah, of those 7 losses in a row, I believe 6 were one-run losses. So they were in all of these games. It just didn't work out. At 412-575-2600, let's get to the lines. We have our number 1 Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night. It's Jerry in Franklin. Hello, Jerry. How are you tonight?
Hey, guys. Doing great. Thanks for taking my call. Hey, a couple of things, if I might. On the lighter side, I've repurposed an old football adage. It reminds me of the Pirates of the last 10 games. They haven't pitched very well, so they made up for it by not hitting either. And of all of the things that Derek Shelton gets criticized for as a manager for Pirates, I know it's part of it's injury-driven, but I think they've gotten McCutchen just about the right amount of playing time and at-bats for him. He just seems to be flourishing with that. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, and it's in a way sad that he is one of your best hitters at, the latter portion of his career. He doesn't have a position to play, which leads to an interesting offseason question about what you do with him. You bring him back, sure, okay, that sounds good. It's a PR thing as well. But, Andrew, they have some, to me, you got to get some of these young bats going. And if they do, where do you find spots for them? I don't know if there are enough spots for them. There's only one DH. You know, you'd like to give Reynolds some DH days. You'd like to give some other guys DH days so they don't have to play the field. But Andrew doesn't play the field.
Well, he doesn't have to play 162 games, and it should be more like 130 at the DH position. That leaves a bunch more for everybody else to get a couple days off their feet. I like good problems. I like when it seems like you have more good players than you have spots for, okay? And I think with this team, because of where guys were either drafted or where their prospect rankings were, we're concerned about getting them in the lineup when honestly they haven't earned it. I mean, if Henry Davis was not the first overall pick, we wouldn't be thinking about this right now, Bob, because Joey Bart has played so well, and not just as a hitter, I think he's fielded his position well too. He's thrown out a number of guys at second base. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to jettison Andrew McCutchen prematurely because I want to get Henry Davis back in the lineup unless he gets called up here in September and absolutely looks amazing. And at that point, you feel like he's ready now to be a big-time major league everyday player again. But as of right now, he's got to get his way back out there by playing well, not just where he was drafted.
Well, I was looking tonight at his OPS down in AAA, and it's 891. In his last 24 games, he's actually hit the ball very well with run-producing power. So we'll see if that, if he gets the chance here, and at some point he's going to have to, just so they know what you just said, so they have something to work on.
So why wouldn't you get rid of Grandal? I mean, DFA Grandal here, and let's get Henry Davis up.
I agree, unless they just defer to Paul Skeens, and Skeens wants him, but I'm sorry. You got to get somebody else. You can't just keep a caddy catcher who can't hit generally just to satisfy your guy.
I would say back to Paul, I mean, do you want us to keep Yasmani Grandal here for the next 4 years? I mean, you're going to pitch to a different guy next season. He's not under contract. So let's get you familiar and comfortable with our other catchers. You're not going to have Grandal next year. So let's get that started early, especially when we're so many games out of a playoff spot. We have even more reason to experiment and get you have an understanding with a new catcher and new battery mate for next year. So I would start to get some of these short timers here, Bob, out the door and give playing time to players that factor into your future plans.
Let's go to Bob in Pittsburgh. What's up, Bob? How are you? Welcome to the Sports Call. Rob.
And Andrew. Yeah, I'm here, man.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hello.
Hey.
I was just watching that Queens had on last night about, who's to blame for that their losing streak. I blame the coach. Because he has a lot to do with the bullpen. And, and I don't understand why they picked up that De La Cruz guy, because, the guy was still there the last day of the,
It was to me, it was a desperation move by them, I thought. He was available. They didn't want to go after anyone who has a better pedigree. He actually doesn't cost that much. I think he's having a good year from a power perspective, Rob, but Andrew, he strikes out more than Sawinski strikes out, and that was a big problem for them with Sawinski up here. Now he's not up here, and I don't know what the deal is with De La Cruz, but to me that was more, okay, let's get someone to make people happy.
Well, 18 home runs, Bob. When they got him, it was 18 home runs. There was only one other outfield in the National League with more, so I was fine with that move. We know he's a streaky player. We know that he's going to have peaks and valleys. That's also Jack Sawinski's problem, but the problem with Sawinski is it's been basically below sea level all year with him. So yeah, you're getting the same kind of hitter, but you need instant offense in your lineup. You were one of the worst run producing teams in all of baseball. So he's in a wicked slump. It's not really a good time to be a Brian De La Cruz defender. As far as what happened with blaming the coaches, don't you want in a game that you have to win? You haven't won a game in 6 games. You're trying to avoid a sweep. You get the lead back in the 10th inning. You've already used Chapman. Who did you want Derek Shelton to go to?
They used
in that
everybody.
Situation? You wanted to bring Ben Heller back and test his luck 2 straight days with him? I love that he went to Bednar for a second inning to try to get that game. And
I would have gone to Chapman for a second inning. He only had 10 pitches, I think, in that. So why can't he do 2 innings?
Right, so that's a better point. He should have pitched then the 8th and the 9th, and then Bednar should have been available for just the 10th, Bob. I would have been fine with that, too. I like that better, actually.
Let's go real quick to DJ in Pittsburgh before we take a break. Hey, DJ, what's up?
Hey guys, hey, what's the status with Brandon Aiyuk? What was the rumor that the Steelers were going to give up for getting him? And the second thing I wanted to let you guys know is I don't like that new kickoff. It's terrible.
No, I don't like it either. I've only seen it for one day, and I don't like it. As far as Aiyuk, I don't know, Andrew. It seems like there's a stare down going on right now, and the San Francisco Giants are trying to figure out what to do, because if they don't get the return they want from whatever team, if it's the Steelers, who certainly want Aiyuk, but only to a degree, they're not going to give up what they don't want to give up. But San Francisco also knows they have a Super Bowl roster, and he is a big part of that roster. Can he play there for 1 year? Can't they make some sort of deal for him for 1 year before? And I know they haven't picked, it's a fifth-year option situation. What do you think happens?
I mean, I got to be honest with you. If I were his agent, okay, if he goes back and plays for $14 million, I'd quit, because he turned down $128 million from New England. Okay, I don't care how bad that team is. If your two options are either life-changing wealth for you,
right,
your kids, your kids' kids, your kids' kids' kids, or risk your entire body for not even 1/10 that. I mean, Bob, like, I get it. You want to be on a good team, but the disparity in money is just so great. You can't rationalize or justify that.
No.
Playing for just $14 million.
Yeah, I agree. We'll talk more about that when we come back. We got to take a break here. Brad and Dave, hang on. We'll try to get your calls next. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, 7 nights a week right here on KDKA+. What's going on tonight at 11, Ken?
Bob, tonight a local mom is charged with running a party house for her son and his underage friends. We have details, plus a Pittsburgh catering company paying up at a settlement with the Labor Department, and the task force investigating the Trump shooting makes a new request of Homeland Security and Secret Service. All coming up in minutes, Bob. See you at 11.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. Pony, before we go, I looked last year after a caller had reminded us that Nick Bosa signed a deal, I think, like right before the season started. How long do you think this thing with Aiyuk will go on before they have to make a decision?
Oh, man, I think it could actually go long, because teams will take wide receivers and fit them into their offense even once the season starts, Bob. I mean, look at the trade deadline moves like Chase Claypool that went on a couple of years ago. So I do think they got no policy that a deal has to get done before the season starts.
Yeah, but the Steelers don't like to do that in season, although, the other thing you have to worry about, another team has an injury or two, and all of a sudden they get into this and offer something that San Francisco can't refuse. We're out of time, Pony. Thanks.
Bye, Bob.
I'll see you again tomorrow night. Good night, everyone. Back here tomorrow.